Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. And today I get to sit with my buddy, Scott Raven, who is the founder of Corvus Empowerment Solutions. Scott, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Johnny, thank you for having me, brother.
Good to see you. It's good
Good
to
to
see
see you as
another
well, man.
another ball man representing. That's what we do, man.
I
Yep.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Well, I would go completely clean shaven like you, but my 10-year-old said you do that and I'm going to hurt you. So,
Wow.
hmm
Okay. Hey,
she
if
she likes
nobody
she
cares
likes
that
the look
much,
she likes the little bit of hair that I have.
she likes the look, man. Hey, you
That's right.
gotta that says something about your priorities, my friend. It sounds like they're in the right place. So you said something profound to me when I asked you early off camera. What's one thing you'd want people to know about you? And you said something like this. I think I'm gonna get it wrong, but I'm gonna try. You said I had it all. I almost lost it all, and in that process, I found that what I wanted was not what I really wanted.
That is correct.
Um, yeah, go ahead. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I had been doing like a lot of other professionals do, chasing after the brass ring in my career. And I had been doing what we affectionately call here the Atlanta rotation, where you hop between companies, higher title, higher pay, higher
Yep.
responsibility, etc.
Yep.
And I was chasing after the quintessential definition of success by any standards, and doing it quite successfully from what the outside world would say. In 2017, I ended up losing my executive position in a reduction in force. And because that position had become such a large part of my identity, I
Yeah.
fell into a very severe depression, worsened by alcoholism. And one night right before Christmas, I head to the hospital with severe chest pains, back pains, head pains, and a blood pressure of 180 over 110. And while I am in the hospital and waiting for the various tests to see how severe it is, etc., I had to look at my then 6-year old at the time, who all he could see was, daddy's not well, he's in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
And I had to think to myself, if this is the last thing that he hears from me, what do I want to say to him? Which,
Yeah.
by the way, please don't do that. I'll put it
Yeah.
that way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I when I say I had it all and I almost lost it all, I mean it from the standpoint that I was very much committed to working to live and to being the best husband and particularly father that I could be,
Yeah.
particularly for my son and daughter.
Yeah.
And on that night, I almost lost that opportunity going forward. Now, the good news is it turned out to be nothing more than severe hypertension with an underlying acute anxiety disorder,
Yeah.
which sounds bad,
Yeah.
but it's controllable. It's manageable through lifestyle changes as to what I implemented into my life. And while the path since then has been filled with its ups and downs and everything in between, it reasserted my why, which is that I do what I do for my family first and foremost.
Yeah. Man, so you got some serious clarity in that moment.
That's correct.
And so what you thought you wanted was what? What did you
What I
thought?
thought I wanted was the trappings of title,
Yeah.
status,
Yeah.
power, compensation. Uh, you know, Look at me. I have done it and worked all these years and have achieved so much. And look at all of the accomplishments that I have had, right? And now, as I look back in retrospect, yes, there were tremendous accomplishments. Yes, there were a lot of great people that I worked with, right? But I wouldn't classify that time of my life as having what I would consider meaningful impact.
Yes.
While I did have impact in terms of the results of my efforts, the impact wasn't necessarily owned by me, it was owned by the company.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily tied to anything better than the P&L at the end of the day, right?
Yes.
And, I think there's a new wave of thinking that the definition of impact goes beyond dollars and cents in the professional world. It's also how does that impact the people who are going to be affected by what you do.
Yes. Yeah. So what you really wanted was meaningful impact.
That is correct.
And meaningful impact goes beyond numbers, P&L,
That's correct.
profit, loss,
That's correct.
right? And it has, and it's interesting. What you marked as the distinction is it has to do with people.
It does have to do with people, right?
How, yeah,
The age old Maya Angelou quote, they'll forget what you did for them. They will always remember how you made them feel at the
yeah,
end of the day, right?
yeah.
And we as humans have such a proclivity to not only live in our emotions, but relive our emotions, that is the true markings of what we leave behind. It is a foundational element of what we would consider our legacy.
How do you make people feel?
Well, through what I do now with Corvus Empowerment Solutions, my hope is that I help them feel relieved. Because what I do with Corvus Empowerment Solutions is I'm trying to drive them to better appreciation of the 6 degrees of professional freedom. The people that I work with predominantly are founders and business owners who have achieved a certain level of success, but feel completely trapped by their business. Their time is entirely sucked with professional accolades. They don't feel like they can trust in their team appropriately or empower them in order to offload things off their plate. If they were to go away for a vacation 2 weeks, they know that something big would go bust and that they would have to clean up the mess. That leads them to spend all their time working in the business versus on the business. And also that the business has become such a predominantly large part of their life that in certain cases they're forgetting to have a life to begin with, right? And
Yeah,
so what we do is that we are teaching people how to install the systems, architectures, and frameworks to gain what they truly wanted when they started or they ventured into business, which
yep,
was leave
yep,
impact and output, no
yep,
doubt,
yep.
but don't do it to the point that you're sacrificing what's core to you.
Man, and so I even hear the echo. Man, I've done so many of these interviews at this point, and so often the gift that you're giving to other people is the gift that you were given,
That is
right? Or
correct.
you're giving something you found
That is correct.
or gained, or a way in which you changed or transformed is the gift that you're giving to other people to
That is correct.
help invite them into that. And so you didn't want what you thought you wanted. There was something else that you actually wanted, but that you had forgotten.
I agree. At the end of I really learned this when I did my first venture into entrepreneurship. I went into a franchise operation with an emerging martial arts franchisor, and for all the reasons I thought that it would be, the combination of financial output plus community impact that I was looking to drive
Yeah,
as I was seeking a different adventure instead of corporate America.
yeah,
And for a number of reasons, that venture did not succeed. But one of the biggest reasons, in fact, the biggest reason, was that I picked a path that was no way aligned with my true strengths and skill sets.
I
And
see.
because of that,
I
I was
see.
trying to do everything through willpower and motivation. Willpower and motivation has a shelf life. And if you're constantly using that, you are never in your flow state. If you aren't in your flow state, you're always feeling like things are a struggle at the end of the day. So when I exited that business, reflected on the lessons and grew from it, including getting my Clifton Strength certification, it
Yeah,
became abundantly clear to me that I needed to prioritize my actions and my decisions based on my strengths and then be able to build up the army around me to complement those things where maybe I could do something okay, but somebody else could do something better. And a lot of founders face that challenge as they are growing their businesses. These businesses become their babies and understand why they're very protective of them. But in order for them to grow up, you have to let them certain things go and you have to let some people be able to do things better than you can.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So it sounds like hard earned wisdom, and it sounds like it's wisdom that you've learned from experience
Yes.
and from having to walk through it first, which is kind of, you need to have that if you're going to be a coach to other people. You have to have been there. You can't take people to a place you've never been, right? It's
No, you can't. You can't.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that word coach, right? Because the predominant offering for Corvus Empowerment Solutions is actually not coaching, it's actually
Yeah.
fractional COO work, right?
Okay. Okay.
And the reason why that is the predominant offering is that one of my favorite quotes of all time is the Teddy Roosevelt quote, manning the arena, right? And as I reflected on it and how I wanted to employ that as part of my vision to be able to have an impact in other people's lives, it became abundantly clear to me that it was best if I were in the arena with them,
Yeah.
not being on the sidelines coaching them. Now, obviously, there's a lot that can be learned in terms of the ability to coach and communicate others and provide the perspectives from my wisdom, right? But to be there in the fight with them as an embedded teammate and being able to help drive them to where they want to go, right?
Yeah.
That's even more powerful.
I love it, man. Okay, so Corvus Empowerment Solutions is it primarily fractional COO
It is
services?
primarily fractional COO, yes. There
Okay.
are elements which are more self-guided and educational that we put up on the Corvus Roost in terms of different types of coursework, but the predominant is fractional COO work.
Okay, that's good to know. So that's for people who are in need. What's your typical profile of someone who ends up on your doorstep? Um,
Typical profile is going to be, somebody who is looking at seven figures in revenue per year, right? So obviously they've established something pretty good. They got a pretty good staff behind them, right? They could be challenged in terms of not being able to make the transition from what they do today to what they need to be able to do to scale. They could be challenged in terms of they know that what they're doing today, while it is successful, is far too operationally inefficient and that they're not able to get themselves away in order to go pursue the other opportunities, right? It also could be a case that they realize that they're too attached to their business. A very common problem for founders and incubators, right? That they become too attached to their business and that they need a third party perspective in terms of saying, hey, I need you to help me and look at this along with my team in a detached manner so that we can objectively create the right design of the things that we're doing behind the scenes in order to be successful.
yeah, that makes sense. And all of that is ultimately for the purpose of setting free the leader,
Yes. Yes, yes.
the
Yeah,
leaders.
but we call it architecting your freedom. Yeah, the corpus methodology at the very highest level is a three-step process. Assess what you are currently doing, inclusive of those six dimensions of freedom and leveraging things like Clifton Strengths in order to be able to understand where are the biggest things that are current challenges within what you desire. The second step is architect. And this is where we differ a little bit from more traditional models like EOS. Now, I have nothing but respect for EOS in terms of longevity and the results that it produces, right? But in certain cases, you need to go back to blank slate first in order to be able to say, if we were to do this over again without any of the constraints that we currently have, how would we do it? What of our existing stuff would we keep? What of our existing stuff would we kill? How could we reimagine different things? How could we improve current things that we're doing? So being able to put more of a blank slate design to the holistic systems, including technology, in order to say, what should we be doing? And then obviously there is the implementation and refinement of that, right? Which obviously is going to depend on what their current capabilities are. But that's also where, with the people that I've met along the way, that I'm more than happy to, provide them suggestions of people they may want to bring in to assist them on those implementation efforts.
Love it, man. It's so cool. So let me ask this question for you. For a person that's watching this, and let's say that they're feeling that friction, because you had mentioned there was a friction that you felt when you were, you were running the martial arts studio.
Yes.
I believe that's what you were doing.
Yes.
And there was a friction with it because you were not operating in accordance with your unique gifts.
Yes.
Which, as you know, is a great area of passion for me.
Yes.
So what do you say to the person that's feeling that friction? When you say that, they're thinking, yeah, that's my experience. How would you counsel that person?
So things first, right? I would say, is this temporary or is this systemic, right? One of the authors, who have a lot of respect for, Chris Tuff, in his book, The Millennial Whisperer, is fond of saying millennials don't understand a simple concept, which is regardless of how great your job is, 30% of it is going to suck, right? So you first have to step back and say, okay, is this just a temporary thing? Is this something that just is coming with the run of the operation? Just, resolve it, grit my teeth, get it done, etc., right? Or is this something systemic? Are you facing the same challenges every day? Are you facing the same emotional drain every single day? Do you feel like you're running faster and faster on the hamster wheel and getting further and further away from where you want to be? Do you feel like you have a level of imposter syndrome in terms of, I can't let anybody see how frustrated and angry and disappointed that I am at myself, that I'm not where I thought I should be at this point, right? That's where you're going to have to do the bravest thing that anybody who is a founder, owner, starter is capable of, which is ask for help.
Yeah.
Because nobody likes to be the person to raise their hand and say, I need help. It's not part of what is in the DNA because you've got this. I've got this. This is my idea. This is my baby. I
Yeah.
know where I'm
I
supposed to
get it
go.
done.
Right.
Yeah. I'm effective. I'm
Right.
strong.
Right. That's right. But it's the ability to ask for help, which is actually the bravest and the strongest thing you can do in order to say, you know what? I don't got all the answers, but I would sure love somebody to help me with the answers I need to find.
Yes. Man, that's so good. And it's so simple and also hard
Yes.
at the same time.
Yes.
Um, and as you know, that's you and I are very much in alignment in that view. I don't think people um, were made to be able to achieve their dreams or even their own highest effectiveness in a vacuum. I think we need each other, um,
That's correct.
and
That's correct.
we find that, and
Yep.
sometimes our lives bring us to that conclusion.
I'm gonna probably irritate some of your listening group because I'm a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan, so I'm relishing in our most recent Super Bowl. But I say that in order to say one of our coaches, Nick Sirianni's, most common expression is, "You cannot be great without the greatness of others," right? And that's true in any walk of life,
Wow,
right?
love that quote.
Hmm.
Yeah, you cannot be great without the greatness of others.
Hmm.
Cannot
Hmm.
be great. It's impossible to be great without the greatness of others,
That's right. That
which
is
means
right.
everyone who you think is great had massive contributions from the greatness of others.
That's
If you
right.
flip that, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And, part of what I believe is the hallmark of a successful legacy is not only recognize that, so being appreciative of those who help you, but then being able to send the elevator back down and
Yeah.
uplift the next generation with
Yeah.
what you're able to do at that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question that we're going to be operating in our highest and best use if we are both receiving with gratitude and giving value to others.
That's right.
And I call that a spirit of generosity. Um, It's something that I look for in people that I associate with and do
Mhm,
business with.
mhm.
So tell us a little bit about your passion and your superpower.
Hmm. So, my passion and superpower is to use my combination of IQ and EQ to be able to assess a situation,
Yep.
be able to analyze what is going on, but then being able to use an appropriate level of empathy in order to balance between that supporting hand and that tough love in order to say, I'm going to help get you to where you want to get to at
Yeah.
the end of the
Yeah.
day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reason I have that superpower, as you alluded to, is by the path that I have already walked, because it is through my direct historical wisdom that I'm able to bring that to the table. There are tremendous amount of wisdom in books, literature, podcasts, whatever, right? Nothing is as palatable in the realm of wisdom in as real life experience.
Yep. Right. Because then you can teach it from your guts. That's how I like to put it, right? Like if it's in me, if it's a part of me, if it's my experience, if I've been there already, then I'm gonna be able to bring you along with me with a lot more passion, a lot more effectiveness.
That is right.
Um, so I love that. So the balance between support and tough love is how you put it.
Yes.
It
Yes.
reminds me. Did we talk about the 6 types of working genius? You and I. Are you familiar with that framework?
I am familiar with it. I think we talked about it offline. I'll put it
Okay.
that way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the tough love sounds a lot like the galvanizer in that
Mm-hmm.
framework.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it sounds like you galvanize and you're going to pull somebody if they need to be if they need to have some tough love given to them. You're able and willing to give that to them.
Yeah, I would say that, right? Although I think that what may be a more appropriate analogy, I've heard this from another context, right? Is that I'm part wizard, part warrior at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah. Yeah.
I can conjure things up and be able to see things in new light, right? But I also can get in there and get in on the fight and help push the party to where it's supposed to be.
I've heard that framework before, the wizard and the warrior. What is that one? Can you remind me what that one is? Or is
Yeah,
that
my apologies. I should know this. I'll put it
okay?
that
No
way,
worries.
right?
No worries.
But I think that it's like the king, wizard, warrior, lover. I think it's the four
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
different
I've
types
heard
of
that. Yeah.
roles that
Yeah.
men traditionally play, and
Yeah.
how you balance those roles, across your life. So,
Yeah. Very
yeah,
cool, man. So you're a wizard and a warrior. Got
yes.
it. All right. Okay. So now, um, how does that factor in to, give me an example. Like pretend I'm a fly on the wall, right? And you're working with somebody, and let's say it's somebody who fits that profile of the person you said comes to your doorstep. They're 7 figures in revenue, but they have some kind of a challenge, and they want to grow, they want to scale. There's somewhere they want to get to, but they're stuck, right? And they start to work with you, and you're going to come in and bring fractional COO services to them. So in other words, you're going to help them get their systems in order, their engine in order. Order is what you're going to bring to chaos so that they can scale. If I'm a fly on the wall, what does the meeting look like? Like, what does the service look like? What does the experience look like
Well, I
working
mean,
with
the
you?
first thing is just a very open conversation, right? To be able to come in and let them tell me their story. And for lack of a better word, start to build a level of trust between us, because there is a high degree where, for one reason or the other, they have not been able to trust this part of their journey with anybody else at the end of the day, right?
Right,
So you got
right.
to build that rapport and being able to say, I'm here just to listen. I am not here to judge or to criticize. You are where you are, and you are where you're meant to be at this point, right?
Yeah, Yeah.
Through that discovery process, right, we then start to take a look at who are the key people who are associated with what's going on, what are the key business processes that are going on, and what are the technologies or capabilities that are all associated in terms of the inner underpinnings of how they're able to do what they do, right? But
Yeah.
then we're also taking a look at what are the OKRs that are most important to them, right? And being able to say, what are the true objectives that you're trying to hit with these goals? And what are the results that you would like to achieve versus if we were to measure them today, where are they today? So that we start to develop what is the definition of good. Finally, that's where the Clifton Strengths comes in, not only on an individual basis, but also on a team basis, so
Yep.
that we can see how the different strengths and attributes that everybody brings to the table have alignment or dissonance with each other at times, and be able to utilize that to not just update the processes, procedures, technology, right? But then being able to work with the humans that are involved versus, hey, let's all change everything in terms of all of these process technology and let's force the humans to adapt.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way in most cases.
No, it doesn't. You don't want to put a bunch of people into that same friction that you described earlier, which is, right? My life sucks because I'm not working in my superpower. I'm not working in my
Yep.
strengths.
Yep.
I'm consistently working in my drains and my weaknesses, and I have to use up all my willpower, and that's when mistakes start to happen because willpower runs out,
That's right. That is right.
right? Like
That's
that's what
right.
that's what you
Much,
described,
much,
which was
much,
yeah.
much easier if you work in terms of helping people be in positions to be in their flow state as often as possible. And it's not going to be 100%, right? We're not talking
Sure.
Pollyanna here, right?
No.
But the more that you can make it happen, the better that the operations flow.
Yes. Yeah, and you're gonna have a happier team. They're gonna be more engaged. They're gonna stay longer, right? Because that is one of the ways that you love and care for people is by giving them work that fits with their design and not trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
Not only
'Cause-
that, right? But when you talk about the impact that you have on people, that's what they'll remember, right? Because whether by your choice or by theirs, your direct professional relationship will end at some point. That is a bona
yeah,
fide fact, but that's
yeah,
not the point. The
right.
point is within the confines of that relationship, did you have a positive impact then? And does that positive impact carry forward into the future for both
Yeah,
parties?
yes, right. And you had even mentioned legacy.
Yes.
Like you use that word, and it's saying, and from the last time I talked with you, I think that word is important to you. What does legacy mean to you?
Legacy ultimately is how you are remembered. A simple way that I think about it is the obituary or eulogy test, right?
Yeah, yeah,
At the point that you pass, somebody else is going to write or speak the story of you. If that story today would not be the story that you want it to be, what are
yeah,
you going to do to change it in the here and now?
yeah. And what does that legacy look like for you? What do you want your legacy to be?
Ultimately, I would like it to be that I was good to the people that I worked with in terms of being able to help us mutually achieve great things and great impact. That translated to a wonderful life with my family and being able to have some of the dreams that we have as a family, but ultimately also being good to myself at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because if you are too much of an overgiver, and you forget to replenish your own cup, you will drain yourself at the end of the day, right? So it's not a bad thing to be a little bit selfish every now and then, because by being able to focus on yourself appropriately, it allows you to give to others more consistently and more quality.
well, just what you said, like it's not like taking care of yourself is not selfishness. I mean, it's interesting because it comes across sounding like that, but honestly, if I want to give health to my family, I need to be healthy,
That is correct.
and I can't give health to my family if I'm not healthy. So I'm not actually if I'm giving to the degree, if I'm giving from an empty tank or I'm giving from a place of unhealth, what I'm giving is unhealth. That's what I'm giving. I'm not
And
giving health.
not only are you giving that, but you are giving behavior that will be modeled later. Your kids
Absolutely.
see exactly what you do, right? And if they don't have anything to dispute it, they're going to go with, well, that's what daddy did. That's what mommy
Yeah.
did,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 So you actually end up doing more harm. Because I say this a lot, like the gift I have to give to the world is my own transformation. The gift I have to give to the world is my own health. The gift I have to give to the world is my own growth. Well, I am the gift that I'm giving to the world. And so if I want to give myself as a good gift, I need to take care of myself,
Yes, you do.
right?
Yes, you do.
And there's basic things that we need.
Yes, you do.
So I'm with you 100% on that. So you want to achieve and a beautiful, thank you for sharing your legacy, the legacy that you hope to leave. And you talked about achieving great things in the world. And so this is where I'm going to ask you about your dreams. What is it that you'd like to achieve? And for the viewer and the listener, there's three types of dreams that I've identified. There are impact dreams, which is the difference you want to make in the world. There are lifestyle dreams, which are differences in your own experience, including bucket lists or things you like to experience in life. And then there are internal dreams, which are ways in which you would like to grow or change. And so I always ask this question at the end, and I kind of leave it to the person in front of me, which of those, all or just one, that they want
Sure.
to answer. So I'll give it to you, Scott.
Sure. Well, let's start with the impact dreams, right? So the impact dream for me is through my efforts through Corvus, I would like to be able to make significant, meaningful impact on 10,000 people through the variety of things that I do, right? And
Yeah.
I hear these people are like, I want to touch 1 million people doing this, right? My philosophy, and I've been known to be wrong before, is I would rather have more meaningful impact on a smaller number of people than less impact on a larger number of people. So that's why, for me, the goal may seem like a small number, but it's a desire that the impact per person is large at the end of the day,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
So that's that. Then in terms of my family, with each of my family members, I have a specific dream that I have. So for my son, who's a huge baseball player, I would love to be able to tour and hit all 30 Major League Baseball stadiums, or however many it is once he gets done. For my
So
daughter,
cool.
who's huge into performance arts, I would love to be able to spend a weekend and go up to Broadway and see a couple of shows and let her see the best in the world do her passion, right? For my wife, who we love to travel and eat well, hey, something where we do a around the world tour, or a big elongated cruise like a river cruise, right, where we get to really experience a lot of different cultures and
Yes.
environments and whatnot would be great. But then
Yes.
ultimately for me at the end of the day, right, I get to look at it and say, if I am able to tell a compelling verse in my part of this universe, and that, as a powerful play goes on, you get to contribute your verse, that my verse is something that has passion, has impact, right? Doesn't have to be the most memorable, right? I don't need the fame, right? But at the same time, is meaningful, right? Then I could sleep at night by doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's good, and I love you putting that out into the open, in on the chance that there's somebody that is listening to this and they resonate with where you're trying to go, and they can see the doors you're trying to go through, and they think to themselves, oh, I think I have a key to a door that he might benefit from going through. Because that is so much of the philosophy behind the superpower quest and the different communities that I'm building and that I've built is how do we open doors for each other? You have 1,000 keys and they're not to your doors, right? I have 1,000 keys and they're not to my doors. And so then how do we get enough information about each other? How do we learn about each other's dreams so that we can facilitate those dreams? Because those are good
Right.
dreams, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is, first off, you have to be willing to go deep with people and let your guard down, let the masks off, for lack of a better term, right? Have a little bit of vulnerability in terms of, hey, these are the things which either I don't have figured out or that keep them up at night or whatever, right? And that not everything's going to be a hit, right? Sometimes you're going to find that you don't jive with people. That's fine, right? But then with the people that you do jive with, that's when you have to start thinking about rising tides and say, how do we lift each other's boats together? How do we allow ourselves to be able to build the tribe and army that is ours at the end of the day, right? And one of the biggest things that I've found post my original dream of chasing after the brass ring was that in the environments that I was in, all of those tribes that I were in were very transactional and transient in nature, right? Yeah, when people were different roles and doing different things, different responsibilities, etc. I mean, that's how corporations work at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
do your job for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah.
But those things will fade over time.
Yes.
What about the tribe that you're putting together that is yours, that you cultivate like the garden it is? Sometimes you bring new crops in, sometimes you ditch old crops. That's going to happen, right? But it's your tribe, it's your garden. It's meant for you to grow and to prosper from the harvest that you get.
Man, I love it. And I think that's a great place for us to end because that's a beautiful image. And I think people are longing for that.
Mhm.
People long for, their tribe. And by tribe, I don't mean the way that I see it politically, which is, I'm in my tribe and I'm against you.
Mhm.
I think what we mean is in the positive sense, people who are invested in me and that I can invest in authentically,
Yes.
right? For
Yes.
mutual progress, so that we're all growing, and the rising tide lifts all boats, right? That's
Yes.
exactly what you're describing with that beautiful image.
Yes.
So, Scott,
Yes.
man, thanks for spending your precious time with me today.
You're welcome, man.
Yeah, it was very fun. And for anybody else who was here, that's been here till the end, thank you for sticking with us, and we will see you next time. Take care.